a marketer who delivers both revenue and also is a cost because marketing is a cost to deliver brand building. But at a cumulative level, I bring so much more rev on the table versus just being a OPEX function. What marketing does is cohorting consumers rightly and pitching your brand, and then you own that TG. So that cannot be done through a brochure. Being a strong brand, communicating what you deliver as a brand will help you get a foot in the door. And then you restart thinking as a marketer saying, how am I truly adding value here? Do I follow the category nuances or do I redefine the category?
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with Indiefolio. Today we have Megha Agarwal with us, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Tablespace. Megha's experience spans across several years. She started off her career in consumer product goods and FMCG, working with Kavan and then Unilever for almost a decade, managing brands like Horlicks and Boost. After that, she spent the last few years building the flex workspace industry. I'm excited to unpack this journey of hers and learn a lot about B2B marketing. Hey Megha, thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kavan. Thank you so much for bringing me in. I'm very excited about this conversation.
Likewise. And Megha, I'll get started right away. First question I ask all my guests is, when did you decide that marketing is what you want to build a career in?
It's a good question, and I have a very fun answer. So, when I was a kid, I used to love watching ads, be it Nirma or Lijjat Papad or all of these fun ads that used to happen. I used to wonder who actually just makes them. And as I grew, I got very, very fond of all things production. And within that, specifically, brands caught a lot of my attention because it was a lot like bringing up a child in some sense, right? You create a brand, you build it, you give it a personality, and then whatever you do, good or bad, starts reflecting on the brand. Everything that I did from there on was to take me towards this space. And as we go into the conversation, I'll tell you about choices that I've made to ensure that I land where I actually wanted to land. But I've always loved this space a lot.
So, marketing is something which is a very exciting space for a lot of young folks who are wanting to choose, what they want to do. But they're pretty confused. I get a lot of people telling me, am I somebody who needs to love ads and production and stuff like that, or am I someone who needs to be more data driven? And I believe you've spoken about the whole left versus right brain marketing
Yeah.
in your newsletter. So what's your take here? Who is marketing for? And if I'm somebody deciding, is this the right fit for me? Is there a checklist?
I'll tell you what, I think it is one of the most comprehensive functions of today. Given the way marketing has evolved, right? I think there was a time when there was very much one way sort of communication. When I gave you the example of a Nirma or a Surf of those times, say some 15 years back when we saw these ads, TV pe aata tha, you saw it, and the brand told you what it is, and it was the end of it. Very, very one way comms driven by the brand and the marketing team. Today, it is digital. Before you know it, and even if you've not spoken as a brand, if somebody's used your brand, they have a POV about your brand, and therefore they're talking about your brand already. So it is more dual side conversation right now. So to that extent, the function has evolved. The requirements to be excellent in this function have evolved, and therefore you cannot say that I only like this part of marketing and not that part. To be able to do either part well, you need to understand all parts really well. So it's a sum of a lot of things that bring together a great marketer. And it is one function in my view, because I love marketing so much, so I'll always place it above everything else in my head. Is there's constant learning required. You cannot sit down and say, "Okay, I know it all." Even now, I think when I have young kids joining my team, the way they understand social or the use of Insta, Reels, all of this, I think they do such a kick ass job of it versus what I can intuitively think. I'm always learning from them and the ideas that come from them. So I don't think now you can bucket yourself into either kinds. You can when you start your career, saying, I prefer this, so I'll start with this. But if you're seriously looking at a career where you eventually want to become CMO, CEO, you have to love all parts of it equally. You might be really good at some parts intuitively, but the others you have to just learn and figure to be excellent at it.
Understood. Following up on that, another crossroads people are at is understanding, do I go the specialization route where I look at a category like, let's say, CPG, and I build expertise over that long, long time. And the other, opinion out there is, get your hands dirty in everything, do sales, go to an agency, do two years in every industry. 15, 20 years down the line, have a great intuition on multiple verticals. I think with you, you've spent about a decade in CPG, then I think almost similar time in WeWork and table space. So what's your take here, right? Do you feel that it's better to have an industry specialization, or is it better to go deeper into your marketing specialization?
Such good questions, Kavan. So I'll tell you what, I think each to their own journey. I'll tell you where I come from personally. I prefer more rounded marketing folks, people who've done it all, seen it all, because I believe they inherently are able to bring a lot more to the table on what technically works, what might not work, etc. So I get asked a lot of times, why would somebody leave FMCG, which is so exciting, to come to real estate, which is one of the oldest categories, so to say, hasn't seen much happening. And to all of those questions, my answer is that's exactly why. Because I think as a B2C marketer, there is so much that I can bring to the table here. Whereas I think I was reaching a point of saturation in terms of what else can be done in this space from my point of view. Now, whether it was WeWork or Table Space, Flex itself is a very exciting young category, really. There's so much happening here. And as a marketer, I've done B2C marketing funnel plenty. But the B2B marketing funnel is a whole different game. So suddenly, from focus on high level awareness, reach driven metrics, you are looking at things like leads, CAC, LTV, all of that. So to that extent, I think whenever I take on the next role or as I evolve at table space, this end-to-end understanding of both a B2C funnel and a B2B funnel makes me a more cohesive, comprehensive marketer. And today, given the way companies are structured, multiple brands diversify into multiple offerings, B2C and B2B. So you cannot stand up and say कि यार मुझे तो सिर्फ B2C आता है मैं वही करूंगी. I think that's the whole siloing of yourself is something that I personally don't enjoy. I want to be in a space where I have learned and experienced various aspects of marketing. And let me give you a simple example, Kavan. You run a company, it's a very successful company. You use soap, you also buy office spaces. So, to that extent, as a consumer, you're not siloing your life as a B2C consumer or a B2B consumer. So, as a marketer, I should be open to all because at the end of the day, I'm talking to a Kavan. And I should know how Kavan behaves when he's shopping for soap, tea, and other grocery versus when he's looking for flex spaces or any other B2B product for that matter. So that's where my perspective really is.
Incredible. I think I agree. First principles remain the same, and
Correct.
that brings me to my next question. You've marketed like a Horlicks. You are marketing a multi. I'm assuming 100,000 or multi-million-dollar deal probably for a GCC.
Yeah.
Thing. So what are those first principles you've learned? Maybe if you could give me an example of something you learned in your CPG route, something you learned in your flex route, and how today you understand the customer. I think that'll be super cool to know.
So for me as a marketer, what am I really doing? Whether it is a 10 rupee rinse soap versus, like you said, a multi-billion dollar office deal that I'm closing with one of the Fortune 500s. As a marketer, I am getting the consumer or the prospective client to know why to sort of pick me as a brand. So it could be Rin or it could be table space. Beyond a point, it doesn't really matter so much because I'm trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to convince you that here is my product or offering, which is the most superior in the market, and I'm giving you ample reasons to pick me, making the job of the sales guy easy when he goes to sell to a retailer in the case of a rinse soap, or the client when my sales team pitches to the largest Fortune 500 in the room. It's about equipping them with the same ammunition, really. The ways and means of doing it is really different. But again, it's all about brand love, right? As a marketer, my job is to ensure that my brand is the most loved and what the brand is trying to communicate as an offering and its promise is well understood by the consumer or client in question. So that first principle pretty much stays consistent. And when you hold that very, very close, everything that you do is directed towards that. Your tools might change, but the objective pretty much is the same.
Awesome. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
You spent a decade in Unilever, and for a lot of marketers, it's like it's like a gold mine for anybody wanting to learn, wanting to have impact. So before I move into what you do today, I wanted to touch upon this. Any specific campaign, any specific launch which you'd like to just unpack for us? Maybe it had exceptional results, maybe it was super creative, won an award. I'd love to hear that.
So, you know what? I'll spend a couple minutes on just Unilever. I think Unilever is one of the best. I don't know the words. I think every time I think Unilever, I just get I get goosebumps because I think it was a dream company when I left Kavan Care and joined Unilever. The day I got the offer letter, I think I was the happiest person on planet Earth. I think it was like a child's dream come true at that time. And as an organization, Unilever has some basic principles bang on right, especially for the marketeers that they have on leading all kinds of firsts in marketing in some sense, right? So they have the best billion-dollar brands, they have some of the most loved brands, they have some of the most purposeful brands, and not purposeful for the sake of being purposeful, but genuinely high intent, purpose driven brands like Dove, Surf, Red Label. Some kick ass work happening in that space, and they keep doing this great work year after year. So the marketeers who come out of here technically are coming out of a great marketing institution in some sense. So I was very fortunate that I spent a large part of my career in an organization like this. I'm gonna go very different from the question that you asked in terms of a campaign, etc. Just to sort of go back to one of the first questions you asked me in terms of what kind of marketeer are you, or what all is required to be a marketeer. So I think once I came back from my mat leave after my second child, there was a role available to take on, which was the larger integration role, where Unilever was, taking over the nutrition portfolio from GSK, and the role was handling the international market. So ex India, Bangladesh, basically getting all the markets into the Unilever fold. Very, very high intense project management role. Also required a lot of travel. And I was the first one to sort of lift my hand saying, I've come back and I'm very, very kicked about this. And I was told that, you have a young child, how are you going to manage? And I said, I'm very kicked. I just want to do this. Also, it was a huge learning opportunity. So I had done enough marketing. I'd worked on Rin, I'd worked on Pureit for South Asia and then globally Pureit. And this was very, very different. I always jump at the chance of doing something different. So I took it on at that time. And I think as a marketeer, it was my first experience of looking at things in totality. So as a project manager on this role, I had to look at everything integration from factory to consumer, entire value chain. So from integrating the factory folks to procurement to supply chain to finance. And I was having conversations with the CEOs of GSK teams across countries to ensure how do we make sure the integration lands really well on day one, taking calls on whether we should shut business in Africa or scale up business in Australia. Is the portfolio right for in America? Should we launch something new? And all of these decisions were being taken by me. Suddenly, I think I grew some 15 years in my career when a company like Unilever gives you that kind of freedom to take decision because it trusts you, saying you're leading the integration. Tell us what you think about what needs to be done where. And suddenly, all things, especially for a woman in this space, is the level designation does not really matter. So you could be somebody from the middle level management, but you're talking to the CSEC across markets for a company like GSK. Suddenly it doesn't matter because, by the way, on this side, I am the decision maker. So that level of freedom, that level of trust comes from an organization like this one. You scale up. And I think from that, I think that stint, particularly for me, was a career defining stint for me where I was very clear that I cannot go back to handling category, but I want to handle company and brands now, shaping what they should do over the next 3 to 5 years, long term, who should we acquire, what should we divest. I think the zone was that for me, given I was handling some 20 agencies across different countries. It was a very lean team. I was a single person reporting to the CEO of Unilever International at that time. It was a high of a very, very different order, very healthy high, let me put it that way. uh, and I think I never looked back. So would you say this is marketing? Technically, no. It eventually became, so after the integration was complete, I became category head for nutrition for global markets, which was core marketing. But it didn't really start with that. But that opportunity wouldn't have come to me if I hadn't raised my hand for this. So I think as a marketer, you need to be really open. And all of this learning today shapes the way I look at brands, whether it was WeWork or Table Space, and have a very strong POV on P&L and costs in general. So I am not the marketeer who is an OPEX cost in the P&L, but a marketer who delivers both revenue and also is a cost, because marketing is a cost to deliver brand building. But at a cumulative level, I bring so much more rev on the table versus just being a OPEX function. I think those are things that one needs to
Awesome.
understand really well. So yeah, that's where I am.
Yeah, I think I always remember of this T-shaped personality everybody talks about, right? And I think experiences like these help you kind of get great like
Yes,
cross-functional experience while increasing your domain expertise. I, however,
correct.
want to ask you, I think so many people overanalyze, what they're good at. In a situation like this, you did this for the first time, as you said. Even probably when you joined Table Space, the kind of deals you were doing, you probably never done, and you were the CMO. How do you learn and how do you get confidence in taking on such work orders? Is it a lot about hit and try, or is there any frameworks you use to learn?
I wish it was as simple as hit and try. Too much of a risk at this point in the career, but I think I've been blessed with good mentors. I think as women leaders specifically, it's very important that you build the right kind of support system around you. So I'll break it into two parts. I am somebody who comes. It's very bizarre actually. So I'm basically a Haryanvi, born and brought up in Kerala. I have a very very old school sort of a system on my dad's side, but my dad's like the outlier who said, the girls need to study, they need to make their own thing, and he's actually brought us up like boys, literally saying just do whatever the heck you want to. It doesn't matter. So I've never really felt gender bias at home. So I'm generally very, very outspoken and I speak my mind. So I think a lot of credit to him from an upbringing point of view, because we take a lot of this for granted. I have seen enough women who are exceptionally smart sitting in conference rooms with the best ideas but not speaking because of whatever reason. I think it's really sad, and it's got a lot to do with our culture, the way we are brought up, etc. So I think a lot of credit to my parents for the kind of upbringing, because I'm the most outspoken generally in the room, whether I have the best idea or not, but I will speak my mind if I believe that I have to speak and have a point of view on something. So I think that is one large enabler. Coming back to the other piece is I've always believed in having the right circle of colleagues who I can bounce off ideas with, and a couple mentors that I've stuck to for life. So when I took on the project manager role at Unilever, the role was actually with my first bosses who hired me into Unilever. And I actually reached out to him saying, while HR is saying whatever they're saying, do you think I can do this? Because I do come with the baggage of a little kid, but I tell you, it'll not be a problem because I'm keen and I think I'll do a great job. He said, Megha, I think you'll be perfect for this because some of these things come naturally to you. And at that time, he said, one of your core skills is execution and ensure that you're able to manage something end to end and not drop the ball. So if I have to pick somebody who will not drop the ball, I will pick you. And that was enough. So then I said, I'll figure. Did I know supply chain really well? Did I understand the nuances of procurement? Did I understand P&L the way it needs to be understood? No, I had done predominantly marketing and brand. But given I am marketing, I'm able to work with people really well. And I don't shy away asking questions and saying I don't know. So, given I was project manager, and by the way, you're a supply chain guy, I'm leading your project, so you have to tell me what you need. And I will ask you 15 times till I get the answer. So I'm able to communicate well with the folks at GSK. So there was a lot of learning, and the openness really helps. So the hit and run or the hit and try option that you mentioned has to be around your learning. Keep asking. I don't think you become small. In fact, the other person appreciates you a lot more, saying that she's willing to learn. She is not faffing around and understands my problems really well. So I've always believed in having a very open space there, and therefore checking on with people you believe I'll do okay, and then ensuring that as a team we win together. So I don't think any of my wins, given we are marketing, is a singular win. It's always cross functional. It's with the support of a great team around me. So yeah, I think I work with that, and the rest is all intuition. If I like something and I want to go ahead with it, I will go ahead with it.
Incredible. I fully second you here. As somebody who didn't finish college and started very early, I'm always scared about not knowing, a lot of things. I believe sometimes talking to the right person and asking the right questions can give you 10 years worth of experience in just maybe a
Exactly.
day. What people are very afraid to do is ask, as you said.
Yeah.
I have a few folks, who are in large banks right now, and they want to do things and they're so scared to cross the hierarchy a little bit.
Correct.
You should. You know what's going to happen worse to us, but afraid to ask. And I think if you're confident, you go out there and seize that opportunity and be a little bit uncomfortable. It generally works out well, and I'm happy to get that
100%.
validation from you too. I would like to now jump on table space. So, when I was researching about the company, I think I was super impressed. I personally wasn't aware the scale at which these things are happening.
Yeah.
I'd like you to probably just contextualize for all of us, what was the insight behind creating a company like this? With one, sub question from me being, I'm a big company, I have a lot of money, I can just do everything myself, right? Why do I outsource something as core as my space, aka my culture, aka a bunch of other things, to somebody out there? So I'd love to, maybe get like some kind of a pitch plus an insight from you on why you folks are doing so well.
So I love the question, Kavan. I think, and given the way, and I'll give a little context to where we are before I come to tables, because I'll talk a little about the category. The category started, and let me go actually two steps behind. So traditionally, leases are how offices have been built and bought and developed, etc. in the country. Traditional leases. So you go to a real estate builder, you tell your requirement, and then you work with some 1,500 people to make sure that your office is fully ready. I think COVID was a really large disruptor in the category. I think WeWork sort of came a little ahead of COVID in the country with the concept of co-working. It came in at a great time given the startup revolution and the fact that a lot of young companies, freelancers, were looking for workspaces without the burden. And there's a very, very strong insight here, right? Traditional leases are bulky, they are expensive, they are complicated, they are long term. A lot of startups don't know what will happen to them next month, next week, tomorrow. So you cannot be investing a large part of your limited pool into something like a workspace. However, the workspace is extremely critical for you to deliver really well and get a culture, the younger folks who join a young startup to be motivated to deliver great work. So it's a catch 22 of sorts, right? I need it, I don't need it. If I don't have it, there's a problem. So given co-working, it worked brilliantly because suddenly you could get an office for a day. Viva came up with the concept of community, collaboration. A lot was happening. It worked brilliantly for this genre of new entrepreneurs who came in and wanted things short term, didn't hit their balance sheet, worked on the OPEX. So I think conceptually great. Post COVID, what really happened is the larger enterprises also saw that, why are we investing in these 20-20 year leases? And COVID could happen again, which means that we have revenue uncertainty, but there is cost certainty for sure because my outlays are given, my inflows are not so committed right now, given all the complexity and uncertainty in the environment. That's when they started evaluating flex. However, traditional flex or the initial flex players were not designed for enterprise. They were thinking more startup, young SMEs, MSMEs, but an enterprise, and let's take an example of any enterprise, take Microsoft, Shell, Amazon, any of these guys, when they build offices, they don't want a ready to move in office which looks like any other office. These are large offices. Their workspace need to talk about the brand, the culture, the look, the feel. Everything when you walk into an office like this should reflect the brand itself. And most of these players were not equipped to do fully custom designed for enterprise. And I think that's when Amit and Karan, when they started the company, and they're the pioneers of managed office in the country. While most players in the category started with co-working as a product, here is a company which started with enterprise first thinking. And it also comes from the space that they've spent enough years in Accenture. So Amit has spent a lot of time at Accenture structuring real estate deals. So for him, this is core. It came to him very naturally. And he said, you know what, let's think enterprise. And that's where the journey really started. And they picked on very, very nuanced pieces that enterprises struggle with. They're coming in for flex. I'll give you flex. So I'll give you something which is flexible leases. You are struggling with working with multiple players. So even if you go to a traditional office operator, he will give you the space. You have to figure the designer, you have to figure the architect, and the 1,500 other vendors to ensure that your office comes to life. Table Space has a single check solution. You talk to me, You give me the brief, I take care of everything for you and deliver the office the way you want in an X amount of time. And at any point, whether you want to expand or you want to reduce or you want to branch out into multiple offices, you're not tied to a lease. You rework out your lease agreement and do whatever you want to, given the requirements that you have at any single point of time. So it was just brilliant. And therefore, a large part, and not surprising, a large part of the business actually is enterprise with a significantly skewed part towards Fortune 500 and MNCs. So, to that extent, they showed this model. And given where we are right now, we are in fact working on a large white paper saying that the future of flex is managed office. Because while startup and co working is doing really well in the country, and God bless, I hope it continues to keep doing well, it is the game of where is the volume, right? The volume will come from managed office, and therefore the revenue skew will always be from enterprise signed off workspaces. So you need more enterprises to get scale in the category. And for a player like Tablespace, 100% of it is enterprise. So we are we started with enterprise, and as the category moves towards more enterprise and managed office, we have the first advantage here because we understand this the best. The DNA is enterprise. So I think that's how this whole category is working. Now we have more players, but within the core managed office space there are a handful, so there's a lot of room to still grow in this category. So it's a very, very exciting space.
Superb. Very unique. I think when I looked through it, it just made so much sense. And you constantly talk about global capability centers, right?
Yes.
GCCs. Um, how is that where the growth is coming from? Are you basically creating solutions for people coming to India, or is it a lot of Indian companies who are wanting to move to this model?
Lovely question, Kavan. So GCCs, let me give you a little macro concept understanding here first. I think India as a market right now is very, very attractive for GCCs for for most companies which are based out of the Americas and the UK, for example. Not surprising, great talent, great political infrastructure, government support systems, and so on and so forth. So I'll give you one stat. For example, till about 18 months back, Chennai, and the category is skewed towards the top six, seven metro cities, which is Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai. Which one am I missing? Kolkata, not Kolkata, Bangalore. So these are the five, six cities where the category is really skewed. Chennai was always one of the lowest, smallest players. Over the last 18 months, it has been one of the fastest growing markets, contributing significant delta to how Flex is operating. For us, it was the smallest market. It is our third largest market this year, fueled by GCCs, because most GCCs in India are coming predominantly to markets like a Chennai and a Hyderabad. And we are getting the advantage of that. Our numbers are saying that. And as Table Space, we anyway claim to be one of the largest GCC enablers in the country because of the scale at which they come in and the expertise that they require. We become one of the first choices in Flex to deliver the GCC. So for us, they are a large pool of our delta growth and future growth. And as we grow as a brand, and you will hear of it soon if you were talking next week, I will give you some dope, but this is something that I can't say right now. But we are really fleshing up our team to ensure that we're able to do a phenomenal job on GCC, differentiated from anybody in the category. So bring folks, bring experience like none other in the category to be the first and the only choice for GCCs who want to come to India. So that's the kind of differentiation that we're trying to build, because this category is getting very commoditized. The conversation is being driven by cost and price. And there is so much more that a brand can bring to the table. So that's also one of the parts of my job, saying, how can we move the conversation away from just price, which should ideally be just a by the way conversation, because that's the LCM on the table for me. So that's where I am.
Got it. Got it. No, no, fantastic. My last bit on your, business model was just understanding what would be like a potential risk here, right? Because if you're saying it's flex and you're building a office space where I've put, let's say Indiefolio is a Fortune 500 one day, and we're putting a Indiefolio office with branding and everything Indiefolio, and because it's flex, I can opt out easily. Um, what would you do then, right? Like, are you working in a model where you duplicate the same thing for somebody else and remove the logos, or you'll have to redo it completely, from scratch? So just keen to know how you mitigate that.
Lovely question. So I'll tell you what, given we are a flex operator, we are prepared for something like this. This is supposed to be BAU for us, where today you are in, tomorrow you move out. We've designed for you. we again make the office bare shell, it is still a grade A asset. So if you think about it, we don't, as a brand, we do not take up spaces as a policy in anything which is not grade A. So it is LEED certified, platinum, grade A. There's always demand for this asset, which is why we have enterprise and Fortune 500 pickers. And tomorrow, when you move out for all the right reasons, assuming you're growing, you want to branch out, etc., and that's the whole model, right? I have a whole system to ensure that this gets bare shelled, ready for pitch again, gets sold. And generally, that's how the business really operates. So this is every day for us, where people move in, move out, come in, go out. It's part of the business.
Superb. I think that makes a lot of sense. I believe that's where the real magic lies in my mind.
Correct.
But I'd like to now touch upon the whole marketing function here. Now, traditionally, you know, in enterprise, when you're looking at high value deals, you tend to have a really sales heavy funnel. You know, it's a lot about relationship building and having a buying committee and influencing that. So for a company like this, or for anybody who's hearing this and doing, let's say, enterprise sales, how does marketing come in here? Because usually with B2B, it's not really about, oh, I feel great about buying this product. It needs to make ROI sense. So
Yeah,
how do you come in
correct.
there, and as a marketer, and how do you influence the sales process?
So again, in real estate, right, the way traditional marketing was, and I'm going to sort of spend some time on this because there's enough question that comes in this space. So traditionally, be it the alco bev industry or real estate, the marketing function has been very heavy on activation and support. So sales collateral, activation, events. These are the three pegs on which it really operates in. And that's where the magic of a B2C marketer really comes into play here, because while those are the three pegs, why can't I influence other pieces? And let's take the example of what you just said, saying, I want real estate, and given it is high value, high ticket size, I will have an RE function. I will reach out to a broker in this case, which is the large broking houses which help facilitate real estate transactions. I will be working with them. But how am I influencing two, three things here? One, does the broker pitch my brand to the client? Yes, relationship, etc., is at play, but there are other nuances. A broker would pitch something that he knows would definitely convert. And you and I could be really best friends, but you don't sell in the market. As a broker, I might not want to pitch you, given it's a large client, saying, "Yeah, let's not pitch him this time." But if I'm a strong brand and I love you as a friend, chances are high that I'm one of the first brands you pitch. That's where marketing plays role number one, which is how do I ensure that my intermediary or the person who's pitching me is sold on my brand through various things. And there are several, there's a whole calendar that we work on to ensure that one part is relationship building. Two, I'm constantly communicating to him how strong a brand I am to all the other things that I'm doing to build the brand. The second part is even as a client. So you're a Fortune 500 company and you've reached out to the brokers, you've shared three names with you. If my brand is known, I will ask why is table space not included. So while you're the broker, I do want to hear from table space because I hear they're doing kick-ass work. So the role of marketing is the way you define it. So I can very, very comfortably work on the three buckets that are traditionally real estate strongholds on marketing, say event collateral activation. But I really believe that given it's getting so commoditized and so transactional, being a strong brand, communicating what you deliver as a brand will help you get a foot in the door. Once you get a foot in the door, which is a job of marketing, then my kick-ass team will ensure that we get the deal. So I think that's where a lot of magic happens. And to that, then I add a lot of other pegs. Like I told, the tools keep changing. So PR is a huge peg for me. All things branding, lead generation for smaller ticket sizes, generally a lot of brand love creation, creds, testimonials. There's a lot of work that I need to do to ensure that a broker or the Fortune 500 client knows who I am and is interested in what I have to offer versus anything that's available on the table. So that's the role of marketing, really.
Awesome. I think they always say strike when it's hot, and I think usually in B2B I've seen marketers getting it hot, so then the sales team can strike. From
Exactly.
what I gather, so would you say that
Yeah.
your channel actually of distribution, one of your primary channels of distribution would be the broker network?
One of the channels, yes, because given they so today how real estate operates is it's very very broker heavy for the right reasons because enterprises struggle to reach out to multiple players, manage through pitches, etc. So their presence is extremely important. However, given the way Flex is, and because we're a single check solution, we take care of your needs end to end. The eventual model and the goal destination for marketing is how do I get a client to come to me directly? because, by the way, I'm the best choice. So, a Kavan, if he's expanding into the next city and he knows that table space is really kick ass, pick up the phone and talk to me because you've got enough information about me already. So, ideally, that's where the destination for the brand really is, and any brand in the category really saying, how do I get the calls directly from the RE folks at the client end? But yeah, so I think currently where we are, it's a two-part job. How do we ensure that the broker channel is strong, continues to pitch us really strongly, and on the other hand, how are we building ourselves as a strong brand so that the clients tomorrow reach out to us directly? So I think it's a two-part job really. One is more long term than the other.
Right, right. Makes sense, makes sense. I think it's such an untapped space, brand building in B2B. I think you also were leading brand at WeWork, and it's good to see you do the same thing here because traditionally people are like B2B is boring, it's unimaginative, it's not exciting. While if you look at performance of companies in India and the profit pools, B2B companies are doing really, really good. And
Yeah, yeah.
there's very few people I feel who don't get this whole B2B content engine and this entire, funnel which you need to create. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you you've looked at B2B and how you've made it more towards like brand marketing with storytelling versus hey, here are 100 brochures and websites.
Okay, so I'll tell you how I'm looking at this. So for me, there are two parts really. And again, the B2C experience really helps because when you come from B2C, the first thing that you're seeing is awareness. You are very, very top funnel focused, saying how many people know about me, what's my reach, impressions. You are constantly in that space where you are talking about this numeric reach frequency metric. And therefore, brand love, spont, all of those things. When I came to WeWork, and this was my first experience at B2B and the requirement for lead generation, I realized a large part of the spend, almost 90%, was on lead generation. I said, really? Here the tables are fully turned. What are we doing on brand building? And the constant thing that I always got was everybody knows the brand, so let's get the business rolling. So I think there was a fundamental switch in the thinking that was required because I had to also adjust myself, saying I can't go and blow 90% on awareness, and because there is a short term goal. In B2C, if you're not doing heavy e-com, if I go traditional EMT that the way you used to do at RIN, once I've done the job of read, spont, etc., I don't really control the sales outcome directly. Here I do because the lead generation, the qualification of leads, the quality of leads that I'm sharing with sales team is managing my short to medium term business, while brand building is a more continuous and long term process. So one of the things that we had to do as a marketer and I had to do was sort of convince why we need to start investing in both, because eventually, if you keep doing short term, at some point somebody will do a kick-ass brand campaign, get brand love, and suddenly you're not relevant because, like I said earlier, price is the only reason why people switch from A brand to a B brand in this category. If you're not doing constant brand love and giving people enough reasons saying, why pick me beyond everything else? Because it is a workspace, it is table chair, I'm doing your brief. But what else am I giving differently for which you need to pick me? And I'll take the table space examples. We talk about single check, we talk about tech. When we launched our ready to move in offices, and ready to move in offices seems like ready to move in offices to anybody. So you go to brand A or brand B, it's the same. But suddenly, as a marketer, what I'm talking about from an awareness point of view is here are ready to move in private offices designed with highest tech security and compliance. You have your own personal servers, you have your own access controlled offices. Nobody gets to enter these spaces. We don't do co working, so that's the level of security. So suddenly, there's a certain audience who is looking for more secure, data private, controlled environment. And then this niche is now mine because they were going for every A to move in office available, which was driven by price. Say you're 8,000, you're 10,000, you're 15,000 per seat. I will pick the cheapest one because, by the way, it's all the same. Suddenly, I will say 15,000 or 20,000, the highest in the market, but I'm giving you these three pegs and you're a data security company. Suddenly, price doesn't matter. So, as a brand, that's what you do differently. And therefore, the awareness piece is really important. And therefore, hinging your brand and saying, you know what, if you're looking for premium enterprise style offices, you need to come to me because that's what I do. I will not do co working. I will not do hot desking. I will not do startup, young startup, because I am not equipped for those. They will not be able to afford me. Plus, the kind of features that I'm giving are not relevant to them. They are okay to compromise on these pieces, and therefore, why should they overspend? Because these are not relevant. So, what marketing does is cohorting consumers rightly and pitching your brand, and then you own that TG. So, that cannot be done through a brochure. Yes, you can add it there, but how many people are reading the brochure? It's a very controlled environment. So, to that extent, like I said, so each marketer to themselves, you can sit within the brief the category gives you, saying this is the category, therefore, as a marketer, you do these three things. Or you come and say, what is a brand problem and how can I take it from destination A to Z? And then you restart thinking as a marketer saying, how am I truly adding value here? Do I follow the category nuances or do I redefine the category? That's what I did at WeWork, and that's what I'm now doing at Table Space, saying we need to do things differently, because just because it's real estate doesn't have to be boring marketing. There's lots to do.
Right, right. I have a follow-up question there.
Yeah.
So, I'm we also do, by the way, enterprise now. We used to be mid-market,
Yeah.
SME. Now we are moving to mid-market and enterprise now, because through our 10 years, we also realize, where we are great at and where our features work. Now, I'm Gujarati. My co-founder is Marwadi, and when we look at suggestions from my team about let's spend in brand. I'm like, yeah, how are you correlating that to ROI? I don't understand. What is brand love? How do you quantify that? And I think where I'm coming to with the question is, let's say there are a lot of setups like this in India, and I'm assuming you and me should be able to jolt a marketer to go into B2B, hopefully, after this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, B2B companies are famous for being sales led. They like, just get 50 more salespeople. We'll just see a major uptick. Um, if you come in, to a company like this, and you said there was a certain spend ratio, there was a certain perception. How do you really convince somebody to change that in the B2B context, right? How do you say this is why brand's important? And is there any attribution system you have, or any ROI calculation you put to show those upticks?
I'm sure any marketeer in the room will be able to put the math together. There is enough data available on how to convince the CFO, etc. So I'm not going to get into the boring stuff. What I'm going to tell is very, very simple. And this will make sure that you're able to do all the math in the world. So let's take the Indian mum example. Given I think brands are babies, so to that extent, take the Indian mum example. So think of two, three mums sitting in one room just before the PTM meeting, and one of them says, my son got selected for the annual day. One son got selected for the sports team to play district or whatever, and there's one who got selected for nothing. You think that mum is happy? She will do everything in her ammunition to figure out what my child is great at, and so I can give the right podium to my child to go and excel in, right? And that's what marketers do. So for me, the simple thing is, you could be founder A, B, C. You might have had tremendous sales teams, but as a founder, as a CEO, do you want your brand to be the most preferred brand by the consumer? Do you want it to be the brand of choice? And that will not just happen by just pushing stock into the market. आपके sales वाले ने गया और in DMart stock भर दिया, doesn't guarantee sales, yeah. Or you went to the broker, fine dined with him, all of that shit. But by the way, the broker's not interested in your brand and proposition. So, I think it is not either or. A large part of the marketer's job is to keep ensuring that you are the right and the honest voice in the room, because you are the only one who should ideally care for the brand and say, you know what, this is not working on my brand. The mother's the first one to see that the child is sick, not doing well, sad, upset, bullied. All of that is the job of a marketer. So that whole love piece is really important for me. While the data, etc., is much more easier to solve for, you have to be the constant voice in the room saying this is not working and I need this much money to fix it. Otherwise, by the way, 3 months down the line, you have a funnel right now, but this could turn into a PR nightmare, or this could work against your brand, or this is a competition coming into the market who's exactly doing what you're saying. So, how is your child special anymore? Or how are you doing a great job? Because it's also on you. So like I said, a brand is what you make of it. Yeah, you stop the support, no problem, you've saved some couple lakhs crores this quarter, but what happens next? You have to spend 3x more to recover from that 1 crore saving. It doesn't make sense. So I think a large part of our job is constant education internally to stakeholders and say why we are doing what we are doing and why it's important. Otherwise, it's the most easiest spend to control. So let go of people, cut marketing spends. Easiest. which is what Unilever never does, which is why it's a great marketing org. So every time there are benefits that come into the category because of oil and supply chain savings, it gets pushed on to consumer. Price discounts dete hain, extra grammage dete hain. There's a reason. Because if I'm seeing benefit, I want that certain profit pool, which I'm anyway getting. But here's a chance I've got some savings. Let's put some more money on marketing, build brand love, and let's give some back to the consumer so that they love the brand and understand that, when we are saving, it's going as benefit to consumer. So the loyalty increases. So it's a large job. It's not just doing your marketing collaterals or your digital campaigns, but also a lot of internal management and communication to ensure that you're always having the right ammunition to do what you have to do, and you have to fight your own battle internally. As a marketer, you're always asking for money, so to that extent, your narrative has to be solid. So yeah, it's
Got
a
it.
whole different thing that happens internally as well.
Right, right. No,
Yeah,
I think so well put. I believe often these things are felt when
yeah,
you're operating in a company, that if they're going right, like
yeah.
okay, my conversions or my loyalty preference referral rates are just going higher, and if you ask why, it's probably because of all the activities we've been doing for 6, 8, 9 months. And that's
Correct.
why I think it's hard for people to have this patience and this outlook. But fully agree, and I think a note for me also to
Listen to your marketing guy more often.
now moving on to maybe some more specifics on the B2B marketing aspect. I think one thing is very clear in general marketing advice, that videos you know here to stay. It's doing very well. It's the best format. Short video, it's the best format to be clutter breaking or be get the attention of your consumer, because B2B is so heavy on thought leadership, content marketing. I wanted to know, do you feel that it's the end of case studies and brochures and reports? Do you think even B2B is going to move towards a video first approach? Any thoughts there?
I don't generally believe that something has to fully go away in this space, because you know what, it is still a very traditional industry. There is still value in that brochure that you give to a broker, which has all the information about a building and a property. I think what's happening is addition of more formats. So there will be a while before some things become defunct in this space, but a lot more things are getting added to ensure that brand messages and communications are being delivered more effectively, efficiently. So, to that extent, it is extremely critical that all of these things are more holistically seen. So that becomes very, very important. So if I see the way real estate is evolving, digital marketing was barely done. It's gotten added. You did not see many campaigns happening. Creds and testimonials were just mentioned in brokers. Now they're getting dialed up. So it's a lot of plus, 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 given the TG is also diversifying, is also more digitally tuned. And we are also building the larger BD funnel, which is I want clients to reach out to me directly. So I have to be where clients are. But the traditional system also stays, which is broker events, activations, all of that is still happening. So that stays, and you're suddenly doing a lot more, which is also a good reason why marketing function is so critical here, because suddenly it's not just those two, three things. You are doing some 300 things depending upon what your objective is today and depending on the audience that you're reaching and what your objective really is. So, given the objective, also you have to have the right ammunition to tackle well and do well exactly. So, I think it's a lot of plus, plus, plus happening right now in real estate.
Got it. Got it. No, I think that makes sense. I feel it's becoming a very complex content engine, which I think companies need to maintain. Which actually, before I get into that question, I also saw, you spoke about influencers. You spoke about Sharma and Zook, and how you had a bunch of things around um, uh, brand ambassadors, celebrities, integrating influencers. I wonder, in the B2B space, what's your outlook towards leveraging these folks, right? Because personally, when it comes to like my observations, I don't know if B2B brands are doing that. While influencer marketing is like the most rapidly growing channel, I don't know if B2B is leveraging that. Is there a reason behind that? If you can share more here.
So I'll tell you what I think, and I'll go back to what you need to use for what is your objective. If it's relevant, and I think influencer marketing is also one of the tools that you use to build a brand, but the fitment has to be great. And it needs to add value. So for me, if a brand is like it's like an onion, right? You're adding layers after layers. You can't have a rotten layer in between which doesn't add, because it'll spoil the whole onion. So you have to be very, very mindful of what tools you're using, and is the tool communicating right. While influencer marketing is really large, works very well for B2C for obvious reasons, because it's very now. While in B2B, the life cycles of a product from I want this product to purchase can sometimes be as high as 9 to 10 months. So, or actually even more. So, depending upon what really is the product in question. I would never say that a strategy does not work for B2B, because unless done very badly or with enough case studies saying it doesn't work, I don't think there is anything saying influencer marketing won't work. But I agree with you, it's not done enough in this category, saying we don't use B2B marketing in influencer marketing in B2B enough, but we don't do marketing itself enough, right? So I think there are steps in the right direction that are happening in B2B marketing, with focus on awareness building, doing the right things. And as you see brands evolve in getting okay spending on brand here, you will see more legs getting added to this whole space. I don't think influencer marketing will not work here. But let's take the case of real estate. As a brand, we do a lot of PR with design magazines, hospitality magazines, and talk about how we do design really well, how our hospitality and our community system to manage our offices and ensure the clients are having a fantastic day to day ops experience is kick ass. So there's this whole thing about hotelization of flex workspaces, right? Because you just don't deliver workspaces, you are giving an experience every day through some kick-ass coffee, great service, clean washrooms, great smelling offices. A lot of smaller nuances are at play. So you are tying up with the right magazines who dial up these pegs for you. So we've started that, and soon you will have spaces, and there's huge opportunity for a great hotelier to say, you know what, if I am hotel X and I believe in 7-star hospitality, in Flex, have you checked out Brand Table Space? They do a kick-ass job. There is meat there. So there's a lot of stuff that's possible, and those are the kind of validations that you're looking at. It'll be very different from B2C influencer, because consumers look at influencers like celebrities. In the B2B side, we look at more expert influencers.
Yeah,
And that is already happening in piecemeal,
yeah,
but not as scaled up as you see in B2C, because in B2B, you also can't be that direct. You don't want to be it's a very subtle difference. You're talking enterprise, and you also want to be classy about it. You want to show expertise and not frivolousness. So those nuance management also sort of sometimes make people feel that we don't do enough of some things, but there's plenty happening. But there's always room to do more.
right, right. No, absolutely. I think very, very insightful points here. I think, PR, KOLs do come under the influencer marketing framework of,
Correct.
of promoting your brand. So we didn't think of it from that point of view. So yeah, I think doing PR, these channels, adding more and more content brings me to my next question, which is how do you create a creative production stack? You've been at multiple companies, huge setups, and more startups, I mean mid market. There's a lot of conversations around this going on today. People are like, hey, it's the end of the agency retainer. People are moving to project basis. A lot of people are like, everything is going to go move in house. With AI's advent, people are saying marketing teams will become like a one person marketing team, or a one person agency. What's in your preferred creative production stack, and what would you recommend to any marketer to have a setup which can generate so much content?
So one, I keep constantly saying this, I don't think AI is replacing human beings, especially in fields like marketing, HR, etc., which have the human heart at the center of things. There's a lot of intuition led stuff happening, and a machine can't do intuition for you. So I think that's one large piece. But however, I'm a strong proponent and a propagator of AI, because it takes away inefficiency from the system, like how. So it is about always the right blend. I don't think there is a uniform answer on what is the right creative stack. It really depends on the requirements that you have. So at Unilever, there was very little creative done in house. It was mostly outsourced. Agencies are a big thing there, will continue for a long time. In younger startups, given the kind of hustle, very young startups, a lot of things are insourced, because it's just easier from a time resource efficiency point of view. In a company like ours, which is scaling up really fast, we're already sizable, have a huge business ground to cover, have multiple objectives to achieve. I have a blend of things that I use. So I have an agency on retainer, and they are like an extended marketing function for me. So agencies have never been agencies for me personally, they are my extended team. And we also have folks in house who help support manage multiple briefs and ad hoc requirements that keep coming in, because there's so much happening all the time. We've bought a building, a client pitch is happening, some shoot has to happen somewhere, the digital campaign needs to go live, there's some PR fiasco to handle. There's just so much happening that you need an always on content bucket, and a content generating engine of sorts. Plus, given B2B, the requirement of content from a video format point of view, long form content point of view, for all things SEO and otherwise, is extremely important. And there is no कि मेरे पास इतने 10 हैं बहुत हैं, I need 10 every day. So there is a I'm like a I think businesses in this space are content hungry like how, and it is becoming the requirement to be extremely top of mind in this space. So it's a non-negotiable. So for us, it's a good blend of everything. And I'm happy to add, minus, delete, change every quarter if required to suit my requirements for the quarter. So I think there's a lot of agility here. There is no fixed system saying this works now, will work forever. But how am I nimble, agile to ensure that my system works for my requirements? And that control I need to have. Agencies understand that they're able to, given we are working in flex, our agencies are also very, very flex. They're able to downsize, upsize as required. I'm not a very strong believer of project basis work given that a brand is not somebody that it's like a foster home treatment in some sense to me, where आज इसके पास है कल किसी और के पास है, understand what you want about the brand and do whatever the heck you want. There needs to be consistency on brand. There needs to be love on the brand, and that happens when you have the right people continuously working on the brand. So some parts of the brand cannot be outsourced, and if you're outsourcing it, then keep the agency consistent. So I think that's personally my view. I don't some I mean there are pieces that you can definitely outsource to multiple project pieces, but the core of the brand work has to be either a consistent agency on retainer or to be managed in house. That's my personal feel, to be able to do a good job on the brand. It's not something that you outsource.
Got it.
Yeah,
No, I think
I'm very passionate about
this is
that
great
piece.
to
Sorry,
hear
just
that.
came out a little hard, I think. So yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
No, no, absolutely. I think Piyush Pandey says it the best, where the retainers give me shower time to think of you, and I think that's very important
Correct.
to think of a brand from a long tail point of view, because you work with
Correct.
so many agencies, Mega, and you probably are still working with them. What would you say is what do you say differentiates a great agency from a good agency?
It's a very, very tough question to answer. So I'll tell you what, I have worked with all sizes agencies, really small boutique agencies to some of the largest global agencies that I've worked with at Unilever. For me, eventually, what matters is the team that I work with at the agency. So I've worked with some really shit teams at multinational global agencies and some really good ones. So beyond a point, I think, given the way the agency setup is for the brand, it is the bunch of people at the agency side who are working with me. And if you get the right folks to be working on your brand, the agency brand beyond a point to me does not matter, because I know the brand is in good hands. So I think getting that right is really important. Obviously, having a great brand helps on the agency side because they come with that experience sitting somewhere in the agency side. But if the experience is not helping your brand, then it could be a really big brand, but it doesn't help my cause. So I think it's about that really. So when you're closing the structure, understanding who's going to be working on your brand, how much support are you going to be getting from some of the best at the agency side, etc., becomes extremely critical. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. You could have won 1,500 awards, but if I have an amateur team from the largest agency working on my brand, so what? I might as well work with a boutique agency who's giving me 25 years of experience across all the folks who are working on my brand. So I think that's how I look at it's the people, not so much the brand. The only brand important in the room is my brand. So that's how I look at things.
Fantastic. So I think the amount of attention and care, I believe, is a crucial point I'm hearing. That
Exactly.
I see this happen often, where the top A team will pitch and the D team will execute, and then there is always that
Exactly.
issue.
Exactly.
So good to hear on that front. We've almost our deadline. So I want to actually jump into asking you the last question now, and I believe you spoke about this. I think it was on your LinkedIn, or yeah, on your newsletter, about the benefits of curiosity. I believe it was an HBR study, and I think the biggest challenge for any marketing leader is usually, according to me, team building, right? So um,
Yeah.
to end the podcast, I'd love if you could talk about what's an ideal team for you. You I mean, I'm assuming curiosity is a big part of your team, but what else? And how does one go about actually building this particular team? That could be a great takeaway for the podcast.
App question. Awesome. So I think you are as good as your team. It's a solid piece that I personally believe in, and therefore, getting the right people on board is extremely critical, especially when you're building something so phenomenally large. So, couple of things which are a no-brainer are when I'm hiring, say, 4 roles, they need to be expert in their domains. They need to be really good at what they do. They need to love what they do, because I think given the kind of companies that we operate in today, the kind of hustle, and sometimes the expectation is so high that the lines between personal and professional life sort of dim on some days. And if there is love for what you do, you will deliver every single day. So expertise and love for what you do are critical. The third side, given we are marketing, is how comfortable you are working with different people. How much are you willing to experiment? I think experimentation is a huge part of what I do, and it's a standard question in my interview saying, "Tell me some things that have not worked that you've tried, despite everybody telling you that it will not work." So tell me the experiments that you tell me the risks that you've taken. Tell me what has not worked and how did you come out of it. That's very important. And the fourth side is I know the kind of leader that I am. I know the kind of person I am. I need people in my team to bring in things that I don't bring in well. So I specifically look for skills that I am not good at, or personality traits that I am not personally the strongest in. So that my team brings it, and as collectively we are so much more than what I individually am. And I like people to question and challenge me. I love them to sort of share their view openly. I don't like people who are yes bosses. I don't like them. So I like people who have a POV of their own, because I am that person. And yeah, so the yin yang piece works really well for me. The Johari window concept works really well, saying this is what I am, this is what I'm not, and I want you to be this, because together we need to win this game. So yeah, I think there are the hardcore parts of functionally what you bring to the table for the role that you come in, and two, for the team that you become part of, how are you adding more and making the team greater than one by coming into the team is how I look at when I sort of build a team of my own. And there's enough learning right now, so I know what not to do. I have screwed up a couple times. There are people that you intuitively like. People like you intuitively like, and I think that's why you need to hold yourself back, saying, there is me already. I need more than me. So I think that's one learning that comes after you've worked with really large teams. So that's what I will leave you with.
Awesome. No, I think that's a great point to end the podcast on. I feel every team is like a singular super brain, and
Correct.
the leaders are supposed to kind of build that brain. So if you have capabilities already, you always need to add on to that and be complementary and supplementary. So thanks for that answer, Megha, and thanks for your time. I hope you had a good time on this podcast.
No, I had a fab time. Such lovely questions. You were so well prepared, Kavan. So it was such a fab discussion. I loved it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And for everybody who's tuned in so far, please like, share, and subscribe if you like to get another marketing leader like Megha very, very soon in a new episode. Thank you so much, and bye bye.